Fine. Good afternoon, everyone. We are very happy to have today's session starting to kick off our second day of our Vibe event. Today with us, we have Dan Ferguson from Poly, and we have Jason Mobley from Zoom and Scott Esser from Zoom as well. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hey, nice to be here, Jay.
Thank you, Jay.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Jay.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. As a reminder, please send any questions that you have in the Q&A. We will be doing a live monitor of that. And as any questions pop in that we feel like that these might be really good and relevant, we were more than happy to kind of jump into the presentation and make sure that all questions are answered. Thanks a lot. Go ahead and get started, gentlemen.
Well, thank you. So nice to have all you here today. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about some new educational features with Zoom. Then we're going to kind of roll into the differences between a Zoom room and a Zoom meeting. And then we're going to have Dan come in and show us some pretty awesome hybrid learning solutions with Poly. So from a security perspective, let me give you Zoom's best practices and how to run your meeting. Number one, we recommend random meeting IDs so that you don't have the same meeting ID for each meeting. Also, I would actually encourage you to use meeting passwords coupled with waiting rooms so that you can control who comes in or out of your meeting. You also can disable join before host. This is very popular on the K through 12 side because typically we want teachers and students to be together. So if a teacher's not there, we don't want to have a privacy issue, so you can take advantage of that feature. We also can manage annotation and whiteboarding permissions. By default, only the teacher can actually handle the annotations, but you actually can turn that on for your students as needed. And then another feature is only authenticated users can join. So if your students actually have a school email address, you can actually lock it down and say only people from this domain can actually join the meetings. So breakout rooms is one of our most popular features in Zoom meetings, and we're constantly adding functionality to provide the best experience for our users. We recently added the option for meeting participants to self-select which breakout room they'd like to join. Previously, the meeting host had to assign participants to a breakout rooms, whether they pre-assigned or they did it directly in the meeting. Now, with the self-select breakout rooms option, the host participants can move freely between breakout rooms without needing the host help. Slides adds a virtual background. This is actually kind of a hidden feature that some people don't know about. When you click share screen, you can click over to the advanced tab, and you can actually preload a PowerPoint slide deck directly into your Zoom meeting. You can navigate that directly through Zoom. And the great part is it actually puts the professor or the teacher in the bottom right corner, and that is resizable. So you have this engaging content where the students can actually see the content and see their teacher overlaid, and you can drag them really big and say, I'm making a big point, and then you can shrink yourself back down. So from a class management best practices, we've implemented a security icon, and that sits at the bottom left of your share screen icon. That gives you the ability to lock your classroom down, or you have the ability to remove students who are disrupting class, whether you put them in the waiting room or completely remove them from the class. You also can control screen sharing. Now, chat is a feature that's very engaging, and a lot of teachers like to use it, but you can lock down that chat as well. So if you want to remove the ability to chat, you can do that. A teacher can also manage students' audio and video. So you can turn off a student's audio and mute them, or you can turn off their video. And then if you want to turn it back on, you do that from the consent of the student. Another feature that I like is gallery view. So again, we've had gallery view for quite some time. It supports 49 participants on a single screen, but now with customizable gallery view, you can reorder that. You can drag and drop, as you can see in the image here, students around in a specific view. Maybe you want to create a virtual seating chart, and you can choose the students to follow your view from a custom seating arrangement that everyone sees. This is especially handy for activities that involve going around the room in a certain order or placing students into virtual groups. So we have multi-pinning. And again, we've had pinning for quite some time, but now you can pin multiple people on a screen. How does this help? Teachers and students using sign language won't necessarily appear as the active speaker in Zoom classroom. With multi-pinning, students who are deaf or even hard of hearing can pin both the teacher and the interpreter on the screen for a more accessible learning experience. So if the teacher spotlights a screen, the teacher's pinned video still appears in their previous order across the top.
Hey, Jay, can I just jump in there, mate? I know you've got an education background, etc., but on that previous slide, you showed that you had multiple video streams, multiple participants. Now on this slide, I'm only seeing 4 participants pinned to the screen. How many can I pin to that screen? What's the total number that I can?
Great question, Dan. So we allow up to 9 individuals to be pinned on that screen, right? So again,
Okay.
with multi-pinning, you can pin up to 9. Now let me show you also multi-spotlight. Similar to multi-pinning, but those same 9, Dan, you can actually spotlight them all at once so everyone sees that view. So how does this help? Multi-spotlight allows you to create a custom focus group that's actually visible to the entire class. This is really good when you're doing group projects where you're actually having the students present to the entire class. Another feature that I'm very passionate about is live transcription. So again, we've launched this through our K through 12 side, but we also are rolling this out to other business units, including higher education very soon. It is a closed captioning that actually does it automatically, and you have the ability to scroll back. So from a use case perspective, you might have students that speak another language and they're learning English as their second language, and they need to be able to keep up. Or maybe from an accessibility perspective, you need to have students to be able to see what the teacher's teaching and be able to go back if they didn't catch that note. So let me demonstrate an example of live transcription. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about our live transcription feature that we recently launched in Zoom for K through 12. So now you can see there's a live transcription button at the bottom of the screen. If I'm the host of the meeting and I press this button, I can enable auto transcription. And as soon as I've done that, you will see at the bottom of the screen how live transcription works. It's a great feature. It works very well for different use cases, especially if you have, let's say, students that speak a different language. They're learning English as their secondary language. Another feature I want to show you is if I come over live transcription and I click on view full transcript, the transcript will show on the right side of the screen. If we have multiple speakers, it will indicate when the speaker actually changes, and this script at the top is searchable. So at the top here, I can do search for English. And as you can see, it highlighted each time I said that word. So again, wanted to show everyone live transcription. We're going to be rolling this out to other business segments very shortly. So thank you and have a blessed day. So a question too, because I like to handle the chat kind of live. We have an audience member asking, can you change the font size of the transcript? Absolutely. From your Zoom setting, you actually can change what type of closed captioning font size, and we support screen readers as well.
Jason, another question that came in, is that included with the subscription, or is that extra?
That's actually built directly into the Zoom feature set, right? So we're not into actually doing a lot of extra. We try to build that directly under the hood. So great question, Jay.
Awesome, great.
So now let's move to our hybrid classroom designs. Teachers have been teaching using Zoom during the entire pandemic, and they've been doing a great job. And I'd like to actually say thank you to all the educators out there for what you've been doing. You've kind of been thrust into this role. You've had to kind of learn some new things, but thank you for what you're doing for our children. So typically, let's talk about from like good, better, best. Good has been where you actually have taught from your actual desktop. Maybe you've had to upgrade your camera, you upgraded your microphone or better lighting. But let's now look at how to really take your classroom up a notch in that hybrid classroom design. So from a Zoom meeting and Zoom room perspective, what's typically the difference? And the difference is that meetings are great for home offices, personal devices, and there's no need for IT setup at all. That Zoom room experience creates a more immersive experience. It's done by adding interactive whiteboarding displays. You actually can have cameras that actually show all the students in the room, whether you're having a hybrid or a remote setting, and you have easy controls to kind of regulate your classroom. So why Zoom Room for the classroom? Well, you have the ability to present from multiple sources. You can wirelessly share from your laptop or desktop without a cord. If you're using an iOS device, you can AirPlay. You also can plug directly into HDMI, and you can use augmentation devices like document cameras. I mentioned that whiteboarding and annotation. That's very important for classes like math or science, or classes where you have to do a lot of calculations. So you can bring any content up. Let's say you're bringing a picture of a respiratory system and you want to annotate directly on top of that. So with the use of Zoom Rooms, you can annotate with your finger or even a pen, and then we can build that virtual classroom, whether you're remote or you're hybrid. So now I'd like to pivot over to Dan to talk to you about Poly's offerings with our hybrid learning solutions.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Jason. So Dan Ferguson from Poly. So we're going to talk about where the rubber hits the road with the relationship with both Poly and Zoom. So you may know Poly or Plantronics or Polycom. It's a company that's merged together to bring their legendary audio and camera and sort of other innovations, audio innovations, etc., to the forefront. And that partnership with Zoom just simply enhances that Zoom experience. So when we're in the classroom, to the home, and everywhere in between, we just want to make sure that teaching becomes easy, stress-free, and frictionless. So as the lines blur between those environments, we want to ensure that you can be heard, you can be seen, you can share content, but most importantly, you can eradicate all those distractions that often take away from your teaching capabilities. So with our innovations paired with Zoom, we just feel that our technology blurs into the background, which enables you to do what you do best, which is teach. So let's have a look at the image that's directly to your front here. We've got a teacher who's in a classroom on her own. So it's a hybrid teaching environment where she's in the classroom, the students are joining online using the Zoom platform. We know that PCs have great, let's not say great, let's say good audio and good cameras. And you know, when all this kicked off with COVID, we grabbed whatever resources we had. We raced home, we set up our own little classrooms, etc. But how do we enhance that experience? Well, we can start to look towards headsets. And if you know Plantronics, you know that we had the first headset that landed on the moon with Neil Armstrong and transferred those famous words that he said when he took that first step on the moon. So we have these headsets that suit all personas, whether it's a Bluetooth headset, whether it's a wired headset, or something in between. We have the capability to match that learning, that teaching style, and a wearing use case for that teacher. Then we look towards our camera capabilities. And again, we have incredible USB cameras throughout our whole portfolio. I'm actually using the camera that is on the screen now. It's an Eagle Eye Mini. It's USB running directly to my PC. It's a personalized camera. But as we progress through our line of USB cameras, we start to add additional enhancements, such as the ability to track the presenter or the teacher as he or she talks around the room, etc. So again, this would be the hybrid teaching mode. But then as we transition through to the next slide, you're going to see where we go from a Zoom meeting, which Jason spoke about, to a Zoom room environment. And here we have one of our first solutions that enables us to enter into the Zoom environment natively. What do I mean by that? Zoom creates this application. We simply load it onto our devices and we have this native rich experience that you're used to. Across all your devices, whether it be a mobile device, whether it's an iPad, etc., it's that same native iconography that you're used to. So looking at this slide, you'll see that we have the X30 positioned above the screen. This is a work from home solution. So I can use my account and I can log into this device. The beauty of this as well is it comes with our audio and camera innovations. So I'll concentrate on the audio innovations for here. Think of the distractions you have in your house at the moment as you join today's call. There might be dogs barking. I've got someone actually outside with a leaf blower. we have the ability to eradicate those noises through our technology, which is known as acoustic fence or noise block. A noise block would be the ability to eradicate the tapping on the keyboards, someone opening their lunch, etc. in that classroom. We would be able to eradicate that. Now, the use case or the user experience here is the educator, the teacher, would invite his or her students to the class. At the same time, I would send the invite to this device. I then walk into the room and I have a one-touch dial experience. All I need to do is simply hit start. From there, I could interact with either the touch controller, the TC8 on the screen, or the actual touch monitor that could be in the room itself. So you'll see the iconography up on the actual computer monitor there. If this is touch enabled, I could interact with that as well as the touch controller. We're going to look at this. Yep, sorry, there was a question.
Dan, I have a question regarding, so you kind of mentioned this easy experience, right? And I tend to like to say, we don't want the technology to get in the way of the teacher. So it's amazing that the teacher can walk in, simply press one button and kick it off. Amazing, amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, think of the stress that, from a teaching background that I had when I walked into a classroom. I had all my papers. I now have to worry about how to join a meeting. I need to worry about what the students are doing, interacting. The idea is it's a one-touch dial experience. We join the meeting, the technology blurs into the background. And as I walk around the room, I allow the technology to look after the audio as well as the camera to track me throughout that class. So, very innovative, very easy to use. And as we transition to the next slide, you'll see that this same device, the Poly X30, can be brought into the classroom. So your investment whilst the teachers are at home transfers when they return back into the classroom. So you'll see it positioned here at the front of the room. It could be positioned anywhere throughout this room on a 45-degree angle. It is totally up to you. But again, it gives you the capability to join that meeting and allow the technology to look after itself. So we've already talked about the touch controller. We've talked about the audio innovations, but let's have a think about those camera tracking capabilities. That if a student was in this class or a teacher, as that person talks, we can set this device to speaker mode. So think about this. You've got your own camera crew built into this device that as someone talks, the camera quickly switches to that person. Then as the conversation flicks over to the second or third student, again, it has the ability to switch across and ensure that that person that's asking the question or presenting is always framed as best as they can, as well as the audio is incredible. So again, we've joined this meeting, allow the camera and the audio innovations of the Poly X series device to look after everything else. So I would position the X30 in a smaller classroom. And as we go to the next slide, we're going to see a mid-sized classroom. But what we're going to do is we're going to transition from an X30 up to an X50. It's a larger device. The larger device, it's still the same operating system, still an all-in-one solution. You need to plug in 3 cables at a minimum: power, network, and a HDMI cable. The beauty of the X50 is that we can now implement a second monitor. So think about this as a teacher. I'm able to see my students maybe on the left-hand side screen, and I'm also able to share content at the same time, which I can dedicate to the right-hand side screen. So again, we're able to keep an eye on the students as well as present content at the same time. What I would also add here, and it's the third point on this slide, is we have the ability to add a secondary camera. And often people are like, why do I need another camera? Well, here's why. Think about an art class, think about a diagram, think about a document camera, or just an object that you may want to present with greater detail. Is through the touch controller, you're simply able to switch cameras. So we can have the main camera looking at the students, the class, but as we want to talk about the engineering cogs on a bicycle, where we have the camera pointed to, or an art object, we're able to quickly switch and toggle in between those cameras to give greater detail. But again, you'll see the classroom there, we're able to enhance the size of the classroom, and we're able to get more students into that picture. So if we were to turn all camera tracking off on this device, it would give you 120 degrees of field of view, but we certainly do want to use the camera tracking capabilities when required.
So Dan, one thing
Yeah.
that I think is interesting too is that you mentioned the camera tracking. So it gives the teacher the ability to kind of meet them where they are. Some teachers like to stand in front of the podium or in the front of the room. And you also
Yeah.
have teachers that really like to walk around. So again, to your point, you have that camera crew built into the system that just follows them where they are, and they don't have to worry about changing presets and things of that nature. It's just, it's like having an NBA show the entire time they're teaching.
And this is why I love working with you, mate, because you throw me softballs every time. We are not trying to change the way that people teach. We are trying to blend into their style. So absolutely, we have a presenter mode that is coming to this device that simply just follows the teacher smoothly as he or she walks around the room and is talking. So absolutely, seamless integration with the camera innovations. And then again, we're going to go to the next slide and have a look at the escalation of this. But what I want to give particular attention to is the touch controller. The touch controller still has the same Zoom interface. So whether I teach from home, the small, the mid-sized room, now I'm moving into the largest classroom that we have, it's the same user interface. So I'm not being surprised as I walk into a room and seeing a different device. That's fine. The device may change, the size, etc. But how I interact with that device, how I start my meetings, how I control that meeting experience is exactly the same. So we're talking about return of investment, but most importantly, we're talking about comfortability and understanding that it's just the same device regardless if the cameras change. So we've looked at the smaller rooms. We're now getting into our largest classrooms, our auditoriums, etc. And you'll see that in the center there, we have what's known as a G7500. Think of this as an integrator's dream. We are enabling this device with Zoom because it still has the same operating system. So we load the Zoom application for Zoom Room, but we have the ability to start to position ceiling microphones. We can have tabletop microphones. We can leverage some of the camera systems that you may have previously purchased from Poly, but it also has the ability to have USB cameras. So again, it's the same touch interface, whether it's at the front of the screen, whether it's at the back table, whatever it might be, but we have the ability to integrate different cameras, different microphones based on the size of the room, and most importantly, based on the experience that you want to deliver from that room. Here's another incredible feature with this device is you'll see the eagle-eye director 2 camera. That's fantastic out to about 33 feet. So again, think of that as 2 camera crews sitting on top of your monitor that pretty much scans the room looking for individuals as they talk. And the right-hand side camera, as one person talks, will zoom in on that individual. Whilst they're talking, the left-hand side camera may be looking for other participants, and it's a seamless transition between the speakers. So that's known as speaker tracking. But here's where we're able to enhance that experience as well, is that I can add 2 of these units into a room. So I can have 2 eagle-eye director 2 cameras. So again, where it's positioned in the room will give you the best angles. So again, you've got these camera crews in the room that are communicating with each other and saying, hey, Jason's moved to the whiteboard. Let's get a 90-degree angle of Jason to ensure that we're able to see the content that he is writing up on the screen. What does that mean to a teacher? It doesn't change the experience whatsoever. He or she simply joins the meeting and the cameras look after everything else, including the audio from the microphones that will be either in the ceiling or on the tables themselves.
Hey,
Excellent.
Dan,
Hey, Dan, we've got a question
Oh,
that came
please.
in. Yeah,
Please.
so how many microphones can be supported in the largest classroom?
So it depends on how you want to integrate it. So you can go through DSPs, etc. So it would really come down to how you want to design the room and what additional DSPs, sound structures, etc. But that would be definitely an AVI question. As you get them into the environment, let them work out the size of your room and how you want to best capture the audio. What I would say is that the ceiling microphones from Poly cover 400 square feet, and that is just one individual microphone. But again, it's more of an intricate question on how many you need and how we can control those. But I would throw that across to Jay and his team for that one.
Yeah, and typically too, as far as that question's going, because I've designed some pretty large classrooms at a previous university that I worked at. the AVI team will actually look at your space and look at the square footage of your space, and they'll design how many microphones based on that coverage map, right? And so I had some classrooms that were 150 users, right? They were larger auditorium halls. And in that space, we actually had 3 polyceiling microphones that covered that entire space. So definitely we can solve those problems. Another thing, Dan, that I wanted to mention is you kind of mentioned that integrator's dream with the G7500. What I love about this product is the fact that you can use all these existing assets in the room. So if you have TVs, if you have projectors, or you have third-party audio, you can just blend that directly into this device.
Absolutely. This is, like you said, and echoed what I said, was an integrator's dream. It's the escalation of that Zoom experience going into your larger classrooms. But if you have legacy endpoints, etc., they're able to be brought into this system through some integration, etc. And it's also the ability for 2 cameras, 2 monitors. So it's a big step up from your X30, X50 going into those larger rooms. The question really is how many microphones do I need, and how do I want to capture the image of that room through which cameras?
Absolutely.
Great. And Jason, a question came in about distance limitation for speaker tracking for the X50. Would you like to take that question?
Well, I'll bounce that back to Dan because he kind of has all those.
Yeah, I'll take that. So
perfect.
One thing you need to work out is what is required of that room. So absolutely. So you do not want to stretch the capabilities of some of these cameras. So their position, the X series is really positioned for those smaller size rooms. So out to about 15 feet. You may have seen on a number of our brochures, etc., the audio is absolutely incredible. So wherever you are in the room, whether it's out to 25 feet for the X50, you will be heard and can be heard. And when we say everything is heard, it's almost whisper proof. But the beauty of that is that you're not going to have students yelling and screaming to the far end. So that would be the limitations of the X series, is that, you know, keep it within that sort of 15 to 20 feet range, but ultimately around that 15 feet. But if you think about it, that's where we want you to transition to enhance that experience through the G7500. You know, bringing in those more powerful pan tilt zoom or automatic cameras to be able to capture all those individuals in the room.
Excellent. And I want to just take a moment to take a look at the slide that is up here. You know, the power of bringing the 3 large companies together to basically make sure that we've got you covered. No matter if you are needing to order something that is for a single room or a single teaching space or huddle space, we've got you covered. If you need, as Dan and Jason mentioned, if you need us to come into a larger classroom or into an auditorium to make sure that the far end experience and the in-class experience is the best it can possibly be for your students as well as for your instructors, we've got you covered. So this is the beauty of working with companies like Zoom, Poly, and avi-spl together. And we're more than happy to put together a quote for you at any time.
So we have a couple questions left in the Q&A. Again, we have a few minutes left, so if you have questions, definitely ask them in the Q&A. Dan and I would be happy to help you with any of those. A question that I see about live transcription is, will it be native to Zoom or will it require something like otter.ai? So before live transcription, we had what we call closed captioning. And with closed captioning, you would have to have a third-party service that you would subscribe to, and you would add that service into closed captioning. But with live transcription, there's no other service that's required. It's built directly into the platform. Like I mentioned earlier, we whitelisted K through 12 initially. And again, pretty soon we're going to open that up to higher education and other business units as well. Any other questions? Well, we have time for a couple more.
I'll ask you a question, Jason.
Sure.
What is Zoom most excited about within the educational field? You know, what some of the features that you spoke about. As a previous educator, professor, teacher extraordinaire, pick 3 for me, mate. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, I'll share a few that I think are important, and some exist today, and some exist that we announced at Zoomtopia. So I think it's important from the Zoom perspective to create a constant level of engagement, right? Because to me, engagement then brings knowledge transfer. So if you have students at home or you're in a hybrid scenario, the students that are at home need to feel like they're part of the same classroom. So using the whole Zoom room technology, using these features like camera tracking, right? That brings everyone together. So from a feature perspective, we actually have video waiting rooms coming. So let's say the teacher has the names of students. You'll have the ability to actually look at them while they're sitting in the waiting room and actually see their face before you admit. Again, this keeps bad actors out. A second thing that I think is very important is security and privacy, right? So, you know, Zoom recently finished a 90-day security review where we made a complete overhaul to our system. In that transition, we ended up changing our full encryption set, right? So now we are AES 256 GCM encryption, which is one of the highest level of encryptions. And I'm proud to say that Zoom is one of the absolute most secure platforms to date. And then things like the privacy perspective, making sure that we're keeping information private, we're respecting FERPA, we're respecting HIPAA concerns so that everyone is in full compliance.
Excellent points. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate your time today. And I know that we've had a lot of great questions and a lot of folks from all over North America. Please feel free to reach out with any questions that you have after today's broadcast. We are more than happy to help you out, and we'll have contact information made available through our live chat as well. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.